And yes, hello there. Okay, wonderful. So today I am going to be talking about magic, the how and why of magic. So, how does it work? Why does it work? Why is it so fucking awesome? How do you do it? There's so many different ways to do magic. There's so many different, magic can be so tiny. I think people just imagine that it has to involve these like very um, big productive like productions and rituals where you have to put in like a ton of effort, and that totally is one way to do magic. But another way to do magic is to just like come up with some really simple action that symbolizes an outcome that you're trying to get for yourself. So I'm going to be talking about that. So I'm just going to first say that I am a chaos magician. And a chaos, that what that means is that I believe that, well, actually, yeah, I guess I'll explain this as I explain like how I see magic working. So I obviously teach on shadow integration, and I'm obsessed with shadow integration, and that's what I do. And shadow integration is all about working with the unconscious, communicating with, healing, resolving the beliefs and blocks and wounds and trauma and pain that we're holding on to in our unconscious mind. So magic is in many ways a way of working with the unconscious. So, depending on your specific philosophy or belief system about like reality and what are we doing here and what does it mean to be a human in the world, what does it mean to have a mind, what does it mean to experience, what is real, like is this table real, is this screen real, am I real, are you real? These are all really big heady questions, and I have my own personal philosophy and understanding, which I find is very deeply aligned with pretty much every great mystic that ever lived in human history. And it seems like these great mystics often come to the same conclusions about what existence is, and that the mind is the thing that is most real, and that we have access to divinity, to everything through the mind. We are co-creating reality through our minds. We are co-creating this experience of life. So you don't actually have to go that far to that philosophical extreme. I don't think it's that extreme, but to believe in magic. However, it really does open up a world of possibilities, because essentially what I'm saying is you are part of, and this is another really common way of framing this, is like you're essentially like a little sliver of God experiencing itself. And as such, through the mind, we can actually access everything that exists. We can access, it's sort of like having the ability to access the underlying programming in the simulation that we're on. So I just want to say that anybody who is here watching my live video, I would love if you want to say hi. I'm just like really jumping in here. So the way that I view magic and my sort of more rationalist explanation for it is something like we're just communicating with our unconscious. So, on some level, whether or not you believe that we are fully able to have like total 100% sovereignty over our own reality, like it doesn't really matter, because we do have unconscious programming. We do have a shadow. We do have so much that's happening that's guiding our experience that we're totally unaware of. We spend so much of our lives reacting and responding to our surroundings, to the situations that we're in, based on how we have been taught, and not necessarily somebody sitting you down and saying, this is how you behave, Lucy. But I also mean teaching in the sense of like, maybe you're a kid and you go to this lovely person that you want to be friends with because you just think she's like the cutest person ever. And you're like, hey, do you want to be my friend? Do you want to hang out? And this person looks at you and is like, ew, you're gross. That's a totally normal kid thing to do. And also, as the person putting yourself out there, you're learning something. This is how people learn to close off. And it can be hard to start to open up when we don't realize that the reason we're closing off is because of some unconscious belief that we have or thing that we've learned. So, and the other thing I want to say about this is like the unconscious programming that we carry is totally irrational. It's not rational. It's completely, it contradicts itself, and it's based entirely on our experiences that we have no control over. So that's kind of debatable, like how much control do we have over these things? Well, I would argue that like as a child, I had little influence over like how my parents raised me, and the sort of microcosm that I grew up in and that I was programmed in, or that I learned how to be a human in. So magic at its most like fundamental is essentially just practicing a new way of communicating with our unconscious through symbols. And so what chaos magic is, just to like circle back to what the whole point of this is it's essentially like the idea that we get to create our own symbols. Because I'm communicating with my own unconscious, my own sliver of God, I get to decide what means what. So I get to decide like wearing a headband equals having a baller live video that people just like love. And that can be an act of magic. It can be that simple. And so that's why I love chaos magic. And that's what makes the most sense to me, because again, we're communicating with ourselves. If we know what it means, then our unconscious also knows what it means. So this can be an extremely powerful tool, because I like to think of it sort of as like a way to, I think of it almost as like hacking. It's basically like a life hack, mind hack of like, I want to shift this belief that I have. And if I believe, so much of it is just simply about belief. If I genuinely believe that this action actually means this thing, it will and can work. If I have a seed of doubt about it, if I have this like little sliver of doubt in my mind that's like, this doesn't work, it might not work. There's a really good chance that it won't work. So even just within ourselves, even outside the context of anything metaphysical happening, magic can be an incredible tool. So I just want to, and also a really great shadow integration tool, right? Because it's like, what are the beliefs that I'm carrying? As soon as you identify those beliefs, you can just come up with it could be teeny tiny, it could be a huge production. For me, when I have things where I need to make like a really big change in my life, for example, like when a few years ago, I was having like mega anxiety and borderline paranoia about just like my safety and security in this world. I started doing rituals that were big. I put like a lot of effort into it, because I also knew that I did not believe that I could get results for something that big with tiny little actions. Hello, Elon. Hello, Nikki. Hello, Anna. Yes, exactly. Underlying program. So I want to talk about a few different ways that magic can work. So chaos magic is, as I said, just like we're literally creating our own symbols. And it basically it can be infinite, which for some people might be overwhelming. That might feel like, where do you even start and what do you even do? However, it's also really great because you can just like tailor it to whatever you want to create, whatever you want to do, whatever feels like something that you can actually do. Another thing is like simple affirmations or even reverse affirmations. Like I'm somebody who hates being told what to do. And so the idea of doing reverse affirmation feels so much more fun and exciting to me that sort of like lights me up. Like today, I totally have done this where I'm like, today I'm going to get nothing done and I'm going to totally like fail at everything. And somehow like that can really just cause me to be super productive one day. Rituals are also a really wonderful way to do magic, just like really sitting down and creating a bunch of symbols to communicate with yourself and do it in a really like contained context is definitely a really powerful way to get like a message through to your unconscious. The other thing is working with deities. This is totally optional. I I love working with Babylon and Saturn are sort of the two like primary archetypes that I work with. But I love working with all the planetary deities, and I have worked with other deities throughout my sort of magical career. And the trick here is to find somebody to find an archetype or an energy or a deity that aligns with you. And that can be really helpful because, for example, well, my relationship with Saturn has been really funny. I really wanted to work with Jupiter. I really wanted Jupiter to be the like planetary god that was gonna like change my life and be really awesome for me. And I mean, for months I made offerings to Jupiter and I made dinner for Jupiter, and I don't even cook. And I just like really put so much effort into that relationship, and I just never felt a fucking thing. And I actually gave up. I kind of gave up on that sort of magic for a while. I was like, it doesn't actually work. And then when I was in that desperate paranoid place, I was like, I'm going to try Saturn, because Saturn is protection. And I did not expect how much I would feel drawn to Saturn. And actually, my friend Carolyn Elliott, who teaches a course called Influence, which is a really wonderful course on magic, essentially says in that course, like, don't bother working with Saturn. The world is already influenced by Saturn. And as my reverse affirmations show, I really like doing things that people tell me not to do. So I was like, well, she says not to work with Saturn, so I'm going to try working with Saturn. But also part of her argument to not work with Saturn was like, Saturn already rules over so much of our current reality. And I was like, well, I kind of suck at our current reality. Like, I don't really do too well in society. So maybe this is actually what I need. Like, I don't have discipline. I don't do routines. I kind of suck at like following through in those kinds of ways. So maybe this is actually exactly what I need. And it was. And as soon as I did my first ritual with Saturn, which I'm, by the way, going to share an excerpt of that to my email list tomorrow. So I wrote about it in my novel. I had like a huge opening, and then all of these synchronicities started happening immediately, which I felt like were Saturn just being like, I've got you. This works. It worked. So so I feel like working with deities is a really awesome thing, because I didn't even think of all the other benefits of working with Saturn. Like, Saturn, it is the master of time, and my time management skills, my ability to navigate time and like temporal commitments and appointments, and then also get free time, like all of that, those are just sort of the boons of working with Saturn. So you might, for example, want to work with Venus because you want to feel more beautiful, and you might find like, wow, I'm having so much better, so much more meaningful and deeper loving connections, more intimacy. Like, you kind of get you can kind of tap into the perks of whatever archetype you're working with. So that's one reason why people work with deities. And also, we do like gods. Like, there's something about humans, we just like gods. We like to have this sort of external thing that we can fixate on and make offerings to and think about and treat as other, and feel like we're in relationship with this entity. Now, I could also make the argument, and some people look at it this way, and some people look at these as like actual deities that exist out in the common psyche. They're also just parts of ourselves. They're just archetypes that live within ourselves. And so, like, all of that Saturnine-ness, when I work with Saturn, it might not necessarily be that he is an entity that's responding to me. It could just be that part of myself that embodies that like me containing, infinity in my infinite mind, is just channeling and connecting to that particular energy. And the thing about these archetypes too is, like, even if you don't necessarily, like I said, believe in gods, because of our being these beings that come from like thousands of generations of our lineage of being on this planet, and the fact that these archetypes exist out in the common world and in the like sort of collective psyche, even if that's just the internet, we do have an unconscious understanding of like what these archetypes are. We might not even realize it. It's sort of like how symbols can work on you, like a raven. You might have no idea what a raven represents, but your unconscious does, because you read Edgar Allan Poe when you were in high school. And even if you didn't read Edgar Allan Poe, somebody talked about it in the background somewhere, and your conscious mind filtered that shit out, but your unconscious mind followed every bit of that conversation and stored it somewhere in your psyche. So that's a lot on deities. So one way that people like to look at magic is that magic essentially increases the probability of something happening. So for example, if you want to win the lottery and you do a lot of magic around winning the lottery, first of all, you have to actually buy lottery tickets. So there needs to be what we call mundane channels. So you can do all kinds of magic all day on winning the lottery, but if you don't buy a lottery ticket, you will never win the lottery. And it's more that it's increasing your probability to win the lottery rather than actually like you're probably going to win the lottery, because the probability of winning the lottery is extremely low. Now, if you're doing magic around like getting a job or finding a job or making more money, and you actually have mundane channels in place to create those realities, then the probability of those things happening is already fairly high. So doing the magic is increasing the probability of that happening. And again, that could just be by you doing the magic. Is if you believe that it's working, you're more likely to go out and do the things that you need to do to make the thing happen. Because it's sort of like when you're stuck and you're like, I don't know where my keys are. I cannot find my keys. I have looked everywhere. And somebody else comes in and they're like, oh, did you look under the bed? And you're like, oh shit, no, I didn't look under the bed. Like previous to that question, you believed that you had looked absolutely everywhere. You did not think that there were any more options for places that your keys could be. But there were other options. You were just not able to see them at that moment. So what magic can do, especially if you really believe that it's going to work, is it's sort of like, well, I did this ritual, so I know that I'm going to find my keys. So where haven't I looked? It's sort of like giving us belief in ourselves in some sense. So I'm doing a lot of like gymnastics here to try to essentially justify magic to rationalists. And I don't know why I'm doing that. I guess I just, because I'm rationalist, and I know that like it took me being able to make these arguments for myself in order to like give in fully to the idea of magic. But once I did, I didn't really need that anymore. I also obviously have done a lot of work with psychedelics. So I have a pretty good sense of like, there's a lot more going on here than we realize. So one of the major ways that people sort of talk about magic or identify magic or explain like what is happening when you do magic is that we're intentionally engaging in synchronicity. So we live in an extremely complex reality / universe where on some level, everything is completely and totally 100% connected. There's no way for that to not be true. It's the butterfly effect. I feel like this is kind of a cliche. It's also like the profundity of this never gets lost on me. Like it just still blows my mind every time I think about it. And in that sense, everything is already like reality is one big synchronistic dance that we're all doing and engaging in together. So practicing magic is just engaging with that synchronicity intentionally and influencing that synchronicity, calling in more synchronicities that you can recognize. Your unconscious mind already knows that all of this is synchronistic. Your unconscious mind is totally like, really does create so much of your reality and really does know what is going on and why you keep doing the same thing over and over again, because your unconscious mind believes that that is the thing that you must do in order to remain safe and maintain homeostasis. However, your unconscious mind does not necessarily recognize that. So practicing magic will increase synchronicity, and you'll have these moments where you'll just be like, wow, that's so weird. That thing that I just thought of is now in front of me. And it it really does promote the experience, the experiential understanding, the inner knowing of like, oh shit, there's more to this reality than meets the eye. And I don't know about you. I mean, I think I do. Like, so many of us are deeply, deeply, deeply yearning for that. We want to feel that truth. We want to feel connected. We want to feel like there is more to this reality than just like go to school, get a job, make money, and then like die, right? Like that. We are by nature extremely spiritual beings, and we want more. We need more than that. So experiencing synchronicity, it just really connects us to this sense of, you know, it gives goosebumps, it sends chills down your spine, it gives the sense of like, oh shit, magic is real, or, you know, there's something bigger here. There's something going on here that is beyond my capacity to perceive or understand. And it's the great mystery, and it's fucking real. So that's another reason to practice magic, just to like connect you back into your spirituality, yourself. So I want to talk for a minute about why it's one of my favorite ways to frame the work that I do. So if you missed the beginning of this video, I sort of gave a long explanation about how magic is shadow work. And then I talked about all the different ways that magic can look, or some of the ways that magic can look. Honestly, it's infinite. So the thing is that as somebody who does shadow work, shadow work is pretty heavy. It's kind of intense, and it can get pretty real because you're looking at the shit that you intentionally hide from yourself. Like you're going into the things that you have been avoiding on purpose. Like there's a reason why our shadows are our shadows. There's a reason why we tuck things away and bury them. So practicing magic is a way to really lighten that up and make it more fun, make it more of a conversation. And also, like I said, when those synchronicities happen in conjunction with doing shadow work, it really helps. It really helps to feel like, okay, this like really deep soul searching that I'm doing has like a real purpose. It's actually connecting me back to this bigger reality, the bigger picture. And so it kind of provides that perspective of like, why are we showing up for this thing that's hard when we could just ignore it? And honestly, there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, it's like, because I'm fucking sick of being broke, or I'm fucking sick of having these shitty relationships, or, you know, that can be reason enough for some people. But to like feel in tune with like God or your soul or just like reality or whatever, however you want to frame it, that's all just like a language game. However you want to frame it, it really does bring us back to that sense of like, oh wow, I'm really showing up here and really doing something worthwhile in challenging myself, in working on myself. So the other thing is that I just really, really like it. I just think it's a really amazing tool to get in touch with things that otherwise require drugs, for example. So with my background in working with psychedelics, I have taken lots and lots and lots of psychedelics. And what I have found is that I can have similarly profound experiences, sometimes even more profound, often more beneficial experiences doing magic, practicing magic. And so I don't have to have all of the throwing up. I don't need to imbibe illegal substances. I can go on a journey into myself, with myself, without any of that external stuff, which is also really great because, well, I'm just going to tap into my own experience here. Like when you take a psychedelic, there is no safe word. You have to go, the only way through that is to go through it. And that's a really hard thing. I personally kind of upset my own boundaries many, many times while taking psychedelics. So I was in a very non-consensual relationship with those medicines. So that is a lot of stuff. I'm open to questions. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. I also want to share that I'm currently offering a program that's all about magic, increasing synchronicity in your life, experiencing synchronicity in your life, and also working through those different unconscious blocks that are preventing you from getting from like experiencing magic, from really experiencing yourself as a magical being in the world. So I'm going to actually, I don't know if I can do that on Instagram, but in this Facebook group, I'm actually going to pop in the link if anybody wants to schedule a call with me to talk about potentially participating in this program. So it will include 7 live rituals, 1 to each of the 7 planets, which I'm so excited about. Oh, it's going to start on January 1st, by the way, which is fucking awesome. So it is very much about discovering your own connection with divinity, right? So I love this. I love so I'm really excited about doing each of the 7 planetary deities because it sort of gives you an opportunity to feel out the connection with each of them. But also I think of them as forming sort of like a circle. There's something very holistic about touching each of those 7 pieces of the pie, as it were, and really like coalescing our magic through that experience. And so those are going to be 7 rituals that will be live starting on January 1st with Saturn. And so it's also sort of like a new year, like let's just like bring this year in with fucking magic. And it also includes 5 one-on-one sessions with me, which will be guided, sort of guided medicine journey is probably the best way to say it. Like they're coaching calls, but my coaching calls are not like, let's sit down and talk about all the things that might be interfering with your magic. It's more like we will address that and then we're going to go in and we're going to do the work on the call together. So that is what I've got for you on that. I'm really excited. Oh, I'm supposed to be sharing that link in the comments here. So I will do that now. So this is just to schedule like a 30-minute call with me. And oh, if you're on Instagram, you can just find the page. There's a page called 7 in my bio, in the link tree in my bio. So thank you so much for watching. I'm kind of wondering if the comments are perhaps not working. Because I haven't seen any in a few minutes, but if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer those. Ray, I would love to have you join me as well. So the way to do that is definitely to just book a call with me and we'll meet on Zoom and talk about it. Yeah, I'm really passionate about this. I'm really excited about it. I have had so many people talk to me and ask me for this exact thing. And I've just basically been ignoring it because, again, that rational part of me that's like, yeah, but do people really believe in magic? And the problem is that like, as like more and more synchronicity is just like constantly happening in my life, I'm like, I really need to share more about this. And I just want to share the wonder and the excitement. Oh, perfect. Great. That's tomorrow. I look forward to meeting you tomorrow, Ray. Yeah, the wonder and excitement that can exist. It is really awesome, Elon. Thank you for watching my video. And geez, I feel like I'm probably going to get off this video and think of 30 million things that I should have said. So that's really what's coming to me right now. So, and I'm also looking forward to meeting with you tomorrow. Great. Well, have a great night, everybody. And I'm going to go rest because if you can tell, my voice is a little bit weird. I'm fighting something off right now. So hopefully that will resolve soon. All right. Bye-bye.